Hello, and welcome to another episode of Search Off the Record, a podcast coming to you from the Google Search team, discussing all things search and maybe having some fun along the way. My name's Lizzie, and I'm joined today by some other folks on the Google Search team, Gary and John. Hi, Gary.
No.
Hi, John.
Hi, Lizzie. Great to be here.
Thank you. Wow, what a welcome. So today I thought that we could talk about blocking content from search. Because you know what? I published this website. You may have heard about it, maybe last episode, matchaguy.com. I commandeered it from another person here. And there's a page.
Wait. What?
Yes.
That's my website.
No, it's my website.
No, I'm most certain that's my website.
I'm pretty sure I'm the matcha guy.
What?
Yes, because I searched for this recipe that I published, and it's showing up in search, and I actually don't want other people to see it. And I was wondering what I should do.
Why did you publish it?
Well, I wanted some people to see it. Like maybe just the super followers, like a small set of people, because it's a secret recipe, and I don't want the word to get out broadly. Maybe just 20 people should see it.
But I am your super follower. Well, I am super.
Oh, but you're not my follower.
I like soup.
Sometimes.
This is going well.
Okay. So, have you considered removing the page?
Well, I don't want to remove it. It's an important recipe about how to make a really delicious cup of matcha. So I don't really want to delete it altogether. Is there something else I could do?
Pig Latin. Write it in Pig Latin.
Write the recipe in Pig Latin. But my super followers don't know Pig Latin.
Oh.
Sadly.
Wait, how do you know that?
Oh, because I ran a survey.
Interesting.
Yes.
You have interesting surveys.
Yes.
How come I didn't get that survey?
Well, maybe you're not my super follower.
Well, we already established that I'm super.
That's true, but not my follower necessarily.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Yes.
I forgot about that part.
That's complicated, man.
Right.
I don't know.
Wait. How about if they are so super, your followers, maybe they can remember a password and then you can just put the whole thing behind a password?
That does sound like a good idea, but what if they can't remember the password, or I don't really have that page, like a login page kind of set up? Is there another option that I could consider?
Passwords are super annoying. Like someone could be phishing the super follower and then secretly look at your matcha recipe. Yeah.
Also, I'm okay with my super followers send it to their family. That would be okay. So they should be able to share the link without having their family members log in. So would there be a way that maybe it's not password protected, but it's not showing up in search? I don't want just anyone.
Wait. I had an idea.
Okay.
How about robots.txt?
What's that?
We had an episode about this.
Oh, you're right.
Come on.
I was on that episode. I don't know why I asked that question.
Jeez.
Okay, so tell us more, Gary. What do? You just robots.txt the whole site and then that page is gone?
What are you two talking about? What's happening? Like, one is writing documentation, the other one was writing documentation about robots.txt, and now you are asking me these weird questions. I don't like to be here. I want to be gone.
Well, we're lucky that you're here.
Well, so what do you do with robots.txt? You limit what crawlers can do on your website, right? So you could put something like, hello, Googlebot, please don't crawl this URL. And then Googlebot will not crawl that URL. So you could definitely do that in your robots.txt file, like disallow colon and then path to the URL or path part of the URL where you published that recipe that you stole from me. Yeah, it's a true story. It was 1897 and I made this recipe, this matcha latte.
Maybe that's why I don't want it found in search. I didn't want you to find out that I stole your recipe.
Right.
Yes.
And you just admitted it. Anyway, so robots.txt.
Okay.
So I would just upload robots.txt to my site and disallow the crawling for this webpage for the recipe on my site, and that would be perfectly fine. Is there any scenario where I would not want to do this? Like, am I missing something?
Well, so, with robots.txt, you limit crawling. You don't limit indexing. But in the very vast majority of the cases, that will suffice. But then if your recipe became very popular, for example, and many people link to it, then we might still index the URL, but not the content of the page. And in those cases, that recipe might still show up in search without description, for example, like without a web snippet. Google would infer a title link from the anchor texts that are pointing to your page, for example.
I see. Okay, so if my page became super popular, the result will still show up. Like, it doesn't mean that it's not going to be blocked from Google search if I disallow this recipe in my robots.txt. It's not a fail-safe.
It's not a complete fail-safe, but again, in the very vast majority of the cases, it will just work.
Okay. So if I wanted a fail-safe method, is there something else that I could consider?
Robots meta tags.
Yeah. Is there a meta tag that I could put on my page?
None, actually.
Oh, nice.
I'm so sorry.
Wow, that was so nerdy. Oh my God. Oh, that was great.
So essentially, you could use the no index robots meta tag, but there is also the none robots meta tag, which is basically no index plus no follow. So
you can use none, and that is the same as doing no index and no follow. Interesting. Okay. So why would I want to do both no index and no follow?
I don't know, but like that's just the abbreviation they came up with in the beginning, because at some point they must have thought that HTML is such a concise page language that you have to save every character. So instead of writing out no index and no follow, you could just write none and it would be the same thing.
Interesting.
Why wouldn't they do something like nonf?
Nonf?
Nonf.
I don't know. Maybe we should ask Larry or Sergey, or whoever made that up. I have no idea.
Probably Jeff Dean, early engineer at Google.
I mean, it's kind of weird because HTML pages are just so messy and big overall that saving a couple of characters, it's like, what is that going to change? But anyway.
Do people still use the none tag today?
Probably. I have no idea. Do you have any numbers, Gary? More than 7?
I mean, I do have numbers. 7 is one of them, but I doubt that most of them would be related to this question.
Okay, so let me pose another question for you. Let's say I have a lot of recipes on the matchaguy.com, and I want to make sure that they're all no indexed. Is there a way to do this like at scale, like a generator or something?
Okay, first and foremost,
yes.
Have you considered that you are publishing wrong?
Potentially. But this is for this real, very real scenario for the podcast.
So most of your pages, you don't want them shown in search? Or
Well, I guess this is like a bad example.
You think?
Yes.
Or maybe just not the matcha examples.
So, all right. We know, all right, you told me that you wanted me to ask you about generators. In what case would people want to generate meta tags for their site, I guess?
Okay, yeah. So especially in the early days when people wrote HTML themselves, in many cases, you wouldn't really know what meta tags to use. So it's something like these weird search engines didn't have fantastic documentation at the time, and various blogs were interpreting the possible meta tags that were out there, and everyone was kind of like copying things from other people. There used to be, or probably still are, these sites that would generate meta tags for you. So basically you go there, you enter the keywords that are on your page, and then it would create a set of meta tags that you can just copy and paste onto your pages. So even if you didn't really know what all of these meta tags did, you could put a bunch of them on your pages. And I think the weird part is that probably most of the meta tags mentioned there could be technically correct, but they don't have any functionality. So things like you could mention the location of your web server in a meta tag, or you could mention the name of the author of the page in a meta tag, but there's like nothing useful that comes out of it. So you would go to the sites and the meta tag generators would be like, oh yeah, I have 27 meta tags I can generate for you. And of course, that would be better than the meta tag generator that just generated like 5 meta tags. So you copy those 27 meta tags to your pages and hope that they don't cause any problems because you don't really know what they're doing.
Yeah, I do think that in those cases where you want a large chunk of your site not getting indexed, then you really want to go down the route of password protecting those directories, for example, or organizing your site into like a more logical structure where you can put stuff that you want no indexed in a specific directory. And then you can use, for example, Apache modules or Nginx modules. I don't think they are modules. I don't know what they are called, to craft these configurations that will apply no index to every single URL under pattern or under a prefix, like URL prefix. That is very technical though, like way more technical than HTML or robots.txt, both of which are, well, especially robots.txt, which is extremely simple syntax. But in the vast majority of the cases, you probably can get help from your hoster, like contacting support and just asking them how to do that. Plus, if you are using a hosting platform like that uses server manager software like cPanel, then you can set these settings there.
That sounds very complicated. It's like...
It does.
You just do all of this, I don't know, complicated physics, which is quite easy, actually.
Compared to quantum mechanics, for example, it's super simple.
Well, for you, maybe. All right, everyone, if you have questions about blocking half of your website, just contact Gary.
Yeah, I'm on Twitter, @methodE.
I guess for many sites nowadays, you would use your CMS, like WordPress or whatever hosting platform you have. And my guess is you just have an option there to password protect individual pages. Maybe that would be enough.
And then the CMS is making sure that those login pages aren't showing up in search, or how would that work? Do you still need to worry about the actual login page not showing up?
I haven't seen any problems from that, so my guess is it probably just works, but no idea. I mean, one thing you can do to double check is open it in an incognito window and then looking at the source code. And it's not 100% exactly what Googlebot might see in some cases, but at least you can double check to see, is there a robots meta tag there or not? And does it say no index or none?
So on the login page topic, sometimes you actually want a login page indexed. Because, like, for example, if you have an online banking portal, for example, and you have a page where clients can log in, it's very likely that people will actually look for that page, like how to log into my e-banking or whatever. And in those cases, you definitely don't want the login page no indexed. So you want it to be indexed so people can find the login page. I remember a few years ago, local bank, or the bank that I use, for whatever reason, they decided that they want to put up a no index on their login page. And then you had to hop through these hoops to get to the login page, like going to the home page and then there click another link that takes you to the e-banking portal. And then from the e-banking portal, you click another thing that will bring up the login modal dialog. And that felt just wrong, because really I just want to log in to my banking account, and I don't necessarily want to see all half of your website to do that. So in those cases, you probably want to allow the login pages indexed. Also, if you have many ultra followers or whatever they are called, then they might want the same thing, basically how or where can I log in so I can go to my member profile or whatever.
So I guess kind of if most of your content is behind a login, then something should at least be indexed. Like, it would be awkward if everything from Matcha Guy were no indexed, because then people wouldn't be able to find it at all in search.
Well, I do have like another scenario that may be more relevant, I guess. We have on 1Z our Google Search Central site, the name that we call that site, 1Z. We've got a lot of blog posts there that go back to like 2007, which I thought maybe it would be a good idea to no index some of the pages, like selectively, if I thought that, hey, this page is outdated. We don't really want people to be finding that in search when they look up, say, duplicate content or something. Like, what does Google search say about duplicate content? And we might have 15 pages about this topic. Would it be a good idea to selectively no index those really old pages that maybe they should be able to be found for historical purposes, but they're not necessarily the most up-to-date answer on a certain topic.
I think this brings back nightmares. I kind of recall a discussion about this, a very long one, a way too long one. So I never want, no, that's too harsh. I rarely want content out of search. Like if we had a blog, for example, and in 2001 we published good content there, then I would expect that to be around pretty much forever. And this comes handy when, like, for this podcast, for example, we do quite a bit of internet archaeology where we are trying to find, like, when was the first encounter of X tool or whatever. And for that purpose, I think it's excellent. What we would want to do on onesie with a blog is using rel canonical to basically creating a cluster and pointing to a canonical page, like managing duplicate content or whatever, from the blog posts that are not that relevant anymore, perhaps. Even in those cases, it's sometimes tricky because with a blog post, we can be way more verbose and way more chatty than with search documentation. Sometimes that also means that we can give more examples. We can be more or less corporate, even, especially in the early days, we could be way less corporate, which means that some people might understand things better or easier. And for that purpose, I would really want things to be in the index, but maybe point with a banner to the canonical page.
So we could leverage the synergies of the archived content.
Synergies.
Spoken like a true manager.
Archive. That's another word that's in the meta tag documentation. No archive. When would I use that meta tag?
Yeah, John, when?
No archive. Yeah, I don't really know where this came from, the name specifically, because it doesn't really refer to the archive itself or making an archive process. It's more that we wouldn't show a cache page in the search results. And I imagine the other search engines also called it something similar. That's like the cached page that they would show with that little cached link in the search results sometimes. And with the no archive meta tag, you basically block that from appearing. Because search engines, in order to actually index the content, they kind of have to keep an archive of the page internally. It's just they don't show it externally in cases like that. So it's almost like, I don't know, kind of like a snippet control meta tag. Like you block a specific part of the snippet from appearing.
Interesting. Would this be for pages that are super fresh? Like we only want the most up-to-date version of this page, like the archive is like not going to be helpful to people, so only the fresh one, or is that not right?
I think it's just for whatever people want to do with it. Like if they don't want to have a cache page shown, like for whatever reason, they can kind of block that. I've seen cases of that happening when they just really, really want people to go to the website itself for whatever reason, or when perhaps the content itself is behind a paywall or a login wall or something like that, where traditionally users would have to go through kind of the website login process to actually get the content. And they just want to make sure that people actually follow through on that and don't have kind of this workaround by looking at the cached page.
You mentioned also no snippet, which would be, I guess, another way of blocking content when you might not necessarily want to block the entire page, but maybe you want to have some other level of fine-tune control.
Yeah. I guess like in a case with a cooking website or recipe website, you could, for example, have something on your page which is really unique to a recipe that you just don't want to tell people ahead of time. It's like you have this super secret ingredient that you put into matcha, which might be, I don't know, ginger or pepper or something. I don't know. I don't know what secret ingredients people put into matcha. But like you could have something like that, and then you could still have kind of like my secret matcha recipe as a title of a page, and within the text of the page you could mention like the secret ingredients. And if you block a snippet from being shown, then you can kind of prevent Google from showing part of the page as a snippet in the search results, which might help to kind of like keep your secret under the covers until people click through to your website. I don't know, like depends on what you want to do with it.
And then you have more control with snippets as well, because you have I forgot what it's called, but like how many characters you want.
The max snippet.
In the web snippet. Also for the image, I think there's something, max image something.
Yeah, max image size or something, like a
preview,
like
preview.
How large the image can be in the preview. That's sort of interesting because it's not like it's blocking Google from indexing that image. It's more like block Google from serving the size of the image or something.
I think it's more something in Google Discover where you would see that, where sometimes you have entries that have this giant image on top, and sometimes you have the smaller thumbnails. And if for whatever reason you're like, I don't want to have a big image shown because people should go to my page to see my big images, then that's something you can set there.
What else do we have? We have no follow, of course, because reasons.
What does no follow do? Like, where would you use that on Matcha Guy, Gary?
Yeah. Tell us about the links that you bought.
What?
Ooh.
I know. I saw the exchange. There was this shady person and you were exchanging currency with that person. And I know that they gave you links in exchange of that currency.
Okay.
Tell us about it.
So then I would no follow that person? It's like instead of a super follow, then you would no follow the person?
Oh, ultra follow. Oh, yeah. No follow.
It's like you can sign up.
Obliterate follow. No, wait.
So no follow just for the links that go outside my site?
It's for all links on a page. Like if you, I guess the tricky part is the no follow robots meta tag would be for everything on the page. And on an individual level, you could no follow individual links.
Okay, but what if I like link to other recipes or something like within my matcha recipe page?
That's fine. It's like that's the way the web is. Like you link to other recipes to other people's sites. I think the problem would just be if someone came to you and said, I would like to buy an ad on your website, and you link to their website in exchange as an ad, then you would add a no follow there. And that's kind of that shady situation that Gary was hinting at.
That I would never take part in.
I was not hinting.
Yes.
I was not hinting.
He was accusing, outright accusing me.
That I was just alluding to it.
Okay, so you're selling links?
So wait. So can I combine no index with no follow and then add a no snippet as well and a no archive? And max image preview.
Sure.
And max snippet size 7.
Of course you can. But okay. I mean, you're not going to see anything. So
can I do no follow, max image preview, no archive, and no snippet?
Probably. I mean, you can do whatever you want on your last day.
This sounds like a quiz.
Wait, what?
You can do whatever you want on your website. It's just like the question, like what will search engines do?
Wait, now I have to. Why did you schedule that one-on-one with me? I'm nervous. I will shut up. How many combinations do you think we can have, John?
All robots meta tags?
Sure.
I would say more than 7.
More than 100?
I know the answer.
You know the answer? This is a trick question.
I know the answer because John forgot to delete that line from our planning doc.
Oh, yes.
Oh, no.
He also put the answer like directly in text as well. You didn't even have to click the link to see the answer, John.
Did I put the answer in?
And basically it's burned into my retina.
Oh, no. Well, will you tell us?
869 plus 1.
Plus 1.
Okay.
Okay. Combinations of robots meta tags.
Correct.
So if you wanted to use all robots meta tags on a website, you would have to make at least 870 pages.
Correct.
Gary,
okay.
What do you have planned for the weekend?
Oh, I have access to GPT-3.
So
it takes literally minutes.
Literally minutes to create so many meta tags? Cool.
But what if we create new meta tags, or what if there are new ones that are created? Is this in the future for...
Yeah, John, tell us about the future.
Will there be new meta tags being added?
I think that's always tricky because then we would have to have more combinations, and then Gary would have to create more pages for his test site. So,
oh, but that's easy. We covered that.
That's the easy
part. It takes
part.
him a few more minutes. Yes, that's the easy part.
I think so. At least in the past, what I've seen when talking with the leads at Google Search is they don't really like to have new meta tags because there's just so much overhead with everything around meta tags. So as soon as we add something new, we kind of have to promise to support it for a reasonable amount of time. We have to do all the documentation. We have to do all the implementations internally. And if it's something that is tied to a specific feature where we don't know how long that feature will be around, then it's very much like there's so many dependencies there that we kind of say, well, we prefer not to have new robots meta tags.
Hey, John.
Yes.
Do you remember rel author?
Rel author. Well, that's not a robots meta tag. What about rel next? In general, all of these control mechanisms are super useful when they're relevant and when they remain valid for a longer period of time. But as soon as you can't guarantee that, or if you do something that is tied to a very, very small feature set, then it's very complicated to justify kind of all of the effort of doing the work on our side, the documentation, explaining it to everyone externally then going off and saying like, oh yeah, maybe we should implement this. And they plan the implementation for months and months. And then if after a couple of years we come back and say, well, actually we turned that feature off, we can turn the robots meta tag off now too, then there's just so much time and effort invested into doing something that ends up having no long-term value. And that's kind of something we try to avoid. We really want to help people to make something for the long run. And obviously, nothing is forever. So it's not like we can guarantee that things will stick around forever. But it should be kind of self-sustaining and valid for a longer period of time.
Okay, that makes sense. So we might, but like maybe not. The door is open if the use case proves that it will be useful for a long period of time.
I guess we try to avoid it, but it's not that we'll guarantee that we'll never make new ones, because I'm sure there will be new ones. Kind of like the recent one, which I forgot, like index if embedded, I think, where it's kind of a special use case, but it's a very kind of important use case and one that we've seen a lot. So it's reasonable to do something for that.
Yeah, in general, we as in the search relations team try to push back on new meta tags, but every now and then we get these surprises like index if embedded because they made sense for something very specific but important. But right. Also, we don't see how, or we are not going to see a new way to implement videos, for example. Basically, in that specific case, in case of index if embedded, like there are at least two ways to provide videos. But when it comes to embedding, then it's always a frame, and we don't see that changing. Like it's been around since forever. There's no new way to do that. So basically, we just had to come up with something that made sense for that particular purpose.
So what about other file types, like a PDF? Like what if we put all the recipes into a PDF? Is there a way to block those?
I mean, you have the robots header, like HTTP header.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
But what if I upload the PDF like on my CMS site and I don't have access to that?
Tough.
Oh.
You can use the removal tool, but really but like in those cases, if you don't have access to the headers, like you can change the headers, then you probably just don't want to upload that thing, the PDF.
I guess robots.txt would also work, but then you have the difficulty that perhaps if someone linked to it, it could be indexed as a URL.
I mean, robots.txt definitely works for images, for example, or video.
Why does it work there?
Would it work for a PDF, though? So it would work for an image or a video, but not necessarily a PDF?
Right. So we index video and images quite differently than web content. Like, for example, even in case of PDF, the first step that we take when we try to index it is to convert it to HTML. And then from there on, we treat it as HTML. So in those cases, we index it for web, like for the web tab. Well, it's not called web tab anymore, but all tab or whatever. While images and videos are indexed for a different tab or mode or whatever you want to call it. Maybe we should standardize the names for this. It's just completely different, like different content types.
So why would robots.txt work for images?
Good question. Maybe it shouldn't.
Is it because in image search we would show the image? Like what would we show with a roboted image?
Oh yeah, exactly. Yeah. Oh, okay.
John coming to save the day.
Save the day. Yeah. Yeah, we wouldn't have anything to show as a snippet. Well, virtual snippet, pseudo snippet.
I think we could find the end to this episode, maybe right now. And that's it for this episode. Next time on Search Off the Record, we'll be continuing our In the Spotlight series, where we talk with someone who inspires us in the SEO community, Barry Schwartz. We've been having fun with this podcast, and I hope you, the listener, have found it both entertaining and insightful too. Feel free to drop us a note on Twitter at Google Search C, or chat with us at one of the next events we go to if you have any thoughts. And of course, don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you and goodbye.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.